Hey guys, YouTuber100 here. Alright, and now for my last review for one of the best matches in Halloween Havoc history. My last review for these is going to be of the WCW Championship match from Halloween Havoc 1998 between Goldberg and Diamond Dallas Page. So, yeah, this was a pretty good to maybe even great match right here. Yeah, for the people that really did like, a lot of people really do know, like, actually what happened with this match when Halloween Havoc first did air on pay-per-view, which I'll talk about in just a second. But yeah, Halloween Havoc 1998, once again, really not a very good show. I mean, this was like a pretty memorable show, but for pretty bad reasons, really. I mean, there really were like quite the number of disappointments on the show, really. I mean, yeah, a lot of the matches that happened on the show were pretty big letdowns, really. I mean, had Chris Jericho versus Raven for the TV title, which was a pretty good match. Wrath versus Mang sucked. Oh, man. Had Disco Inferno versus Juventud Guerrero, which was a pretty good match, I guess. Had Alex Wright versus Fit Finlay in a match that really was just kind of meh. I mean, yeah. There was Saturn versus Lodi, which sucked. There was Billy Kidman versus Disco Inferno for the Cruiserweight title, which was a pretty good match. Had the Tag Team Championship match with Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell versus Scott Steiner and Giant. And then, yeah, of course, like, Buff Bagwell ended up, like, turning on Rick Steiner, which was pretty obvious would happen. And plus, yeah, that match, it really wasn't very good, and then it eventually had, like, a small match between Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner, which really was not a very good match. Had Scott Hall versus Kevin Nash, which ended in a countout, which was kind of a letdown, really. Had Bret Hart and Sting for the US title, which was a pretty big letdown, too. Yeah, and yeah, there was like Hollywood Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. Oh man. Yeah, like I said in my last video, I really don't think I really need to talk about it, but yeah, everybody knows about that match, just ooh. Yeah. And then we get to this match, Goldberg and DDP for the WCW title, which was, yeah, pretty good to a great match right here. And like I said before, I mean, yeah, people should probably know about what happened with this match when it first aired. The pay-per-view originally aired. Yeah, I mean, just like right as Goldberg and DDP, he just like locked up with each other, then that's just when the pay-per-view just cut off, and they just lost feed. Yeah, I mean, and it's not, just because, like, the WCW went over the time they had for this pay-per-view, and, because really, for this pay-per-view, they really wasted a lot of time with a bunch of useless segments. Like, there's segments with the Nitro Girls, and then there's a bunch of pointless promos, and then, and plus, like, this pay-per-view just had too many matches. I mean, you may have noticed, like, I was going through them. There were 12 matches on this pay-per-view, so, yeah, just like they wasted a bunch of time on the show with really matches that we didn't really need in. Like those Nitro Girl segments and the promos that really didn't need it. So they were just like wasting time to take away their pay-per-view time for this match. And so, yeah, the pay-per-view feed just cut off during this match. And so, yeah, of course, then afterwards, like, WCW needed to give refunds to a lot of people. And then, yeah, this match was then shown the next night on Nitro. Yeah, and gosh, I just hate it when they do this. Like, WWE has done this a few times with WrestleMania, and yeah, this is like another example of WWE doing this. They just waste time on a bunch of stuff that they don't need, and it takes time away from other matches. Like at WrestleMania 19, the WWE they had their World Tag Team title match between Kane and RVD against Chief Morley and Lance Storm. That was moved to Sunday Night Heat to make room for that Miller Lite Catfight Girl segment at WrestleMania 19. And at WrestleMania 25, they also did that. They moved their Unified Tag Team title match on the pre-show. Oh, and then they decided to instead add in a Kid Rock concert before the Diva Battle Royal. And then, yeah, WrestleMania 28, they did that again. They gave the World Heavyweight title match like 18 seconds, but they gave the women's tag match with Kelly and Maria Menounos versus Beth Phoenix and Eve for like 7 minutes, and they also had that Brodus Clay dance segment later on in the show, and they also had that MGK and Flo Rida concert before the Rock versus John Cena match. So they just wasted time on a bunch of crap when they could have actually had more time for their world title match there. And yeah, that's what they did here. I mean, they just wasted time on a bunch of crap and a bunch of useless promos when they could have actually had time to have this match on their pay-per-view. In their pay-per-view time, but because of that, they just they just went over their pay-per-view time, and the feed cut off. So yeah, there was like all that controversy when this pay-per-view first aired. But yeah, this was still a pretty good to great match right here. My only gripe with it is that it is pretty short. I mean, the match is only like 10.5 minutes, really. I mean, if it would have lasted like at least like 15 minutes, I probably could say this was a real great match. But yeah, just because it's too short, or it kind of just this makes me unable to say that, really. I still do think it is a pretty good to great match for the time it's given, but if it was, like, longer, probably could have been, like, a really great match. And overall, I think this is probably maybe the worst match of the ones that I have included in these reviews. But it is still, like, a good match. I'd probably give it, I don't know, 3 3/4 stars out of 4. I mean, if it wasn't longer, I could probably give it like at least 4 stars. But just because of how relatively short it is, I really just like need only really give it 3 3/4 stars out of 5. Did I say 4 before? I meant 5. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let me just talk about the match real quick. So yeah, of course, like the match starts off with basically like Goldberg being like the character that he was at the time, just Goldberg really being a huge monster and dominant. Yeah, this was during the time of his huge undefeated streak. At this point, he had like over 150 wins. Yeah, and yeah, for the first like few minutes of the match, it was just basically Goldberg dominating the match, and eventually DDP started making a comeback. At one point, Goldberg tried to go for the spear on DDP, but DDP ended up moving out of the way, and Goldberg just went shoulder first into the ring post. That ended up like damaging his arm and shoulder and stuff. And DDP then tried making a comeback. At one point, like Goldberg, like, Irish whipped DDP into the ropes, and as DDP came back, he just was countered with a swinging DDT onto Goldberg. Yeah. And then at one point, DDP tried to signal for the Diamond Cutter, but then Goldberg charged at DDP with a spear. DDP ended up surviving the spear. And Goldberg tried to go for the jackhammer, but because of Goldberg's injured arm, he wasn't able to lift DDP all the way up for the jackhammer. And then he attempted it a second time, but DDP ended up countering it into the Diamond Cutter. But Goldberg ended up surviving it, because it took probably at least 10 seconds, maybe even longer than that, for DDP to actually try to cover Goldberg. Yeah. And then DDP tried to go for a huge suplex, but Goldberg ended up countering it, and then Goldberg was able to connect with the jackhammer, and then Goldberg got the pin, and Goldberg won, and Goldberg retained the WCW title. So, yeah, it was a pretty short match, so yeah, that's why I really can't can't really talk about it any longer, go any more in depth into it, just because it was really relatively short. But for the time it lasted, it was still a pretty good match. And then, yeah, this would of course eventually lead to Goldberg then defending his title against Kevin Nash at Starrcade that year. And then that would then be where Goldberg's undefeated streak would end after 173 wins. And so, this was still a really good match. I give this, as I said, 3 3/4 stars out of 5. I mean, yeah, like I said, if this really would have lasted longer, I probably could end up rating it even higher, but due to, how short the match really is overall, it just, really just, if I can't do that, I can't really go that high for the rating. But still a real good match for the time. So, yeah, and I guess it was, a pretty good, redemption and a good way to go off after the Hogan-Warrior match. And, yeah, if it did, the pay-per-view, I guess, did, technically end, even though, this match really, when the pay-per-view originally aired, that's not really how it ended, but as far as, this show, the show overall ending, I guess it ended on a good note. Alright, so yeah, that does it for my review for Goldberg vs. DDP at Halloween Havoc 1998. And yeah, that does it for my reviews of the best matches in Halloween Havoc history. I hope you guys really did enjoy watching these few reviews I did of these matches. Yeah, I wish I could have done more, but there really has not been that very many good Halloween Havoc matches in history, because the shows really overall did always suck. But yeah, at least they do have these few matches that I did review as great matches to go and look at. So yeah, if you do actually want to see some good Halloween Havoc matches, despite the very few there are, yeah, these ones that I reviewed, they are good ones to check out. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed these Halloween Havoc match reviews, the very few ones that I did. And alright, so yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.